This was an embarrassing week for the political late-night shows. John Oliver offered a bribe to a Supreme Court justice.
$1 million a year, Clarence.
Colbert called this a comedy monologue.
I know how numb we've become, but it's not normal.
Bill Maher called this...
If it were a white man shooting, we'd know.
A superpower, and Jon Stewart said that having unsafe subways and grocery stores is...
the literal price of freedom.
They're hacks. We know it. They're so far removed from reality that their jokes don't make sense anymore. The good news is fewer people are watching. The bad news is millions of people are still watching. But there's one guy that gets left out of these discussions, and it's Jimmy Fallon. With a show that's mostly games and dancing, his show feels like a relic of the before times. A party where everyone's rich and no one swears. A weird little island where we can all pretend it's 2010 forever, at least for an hour a night. Jimmy Fallon got his big break on SNL as the straight man who couldn't keep a straight face, which in comedy is the straight man's job. It's like if Chris Farley got famous for not falling down. Then after a couple of failed movies, he went away for a while, though he did resurface for the odd television PSA.
Hello, I hope you're enjoying your program. I just want to quickly let you know that AIDS is still a problem in America.
Until he got the 12:30 slot on NBC. For a while, Jimmy Fallon was a juggernaut. His YouTube clips got a gazillion views, mainly through his totally authentic friendship with Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. Huey.
Yeah.
Fallon was the fun at a party guy, less like a late-night host and more like a game show host. He was nobody's comedy hero, but he brought in ratings, so he was the obvious choice to replace Jay Leno. And even after Trump came along and all the shows turned into what they are now, Jimmy Fallon kept doing the same thing, trading jackets with Shaq,
You gotta sleep on.
Amy Schumer doing stand-up with backup dancers. Closest he gets to political comedy is What If Biden Did TikTok? After a while, people started souring on him. It all started to seem fake. There's no way what Brian Williams said was this funny.
You know, Jimmy...
The other hosts have fully embraced that we are in a culture war, and they've embraced their role as regime propagandists. But Fallon wants to live in a time before all the fighting. He's a left-winger, but he prefers jokes with no barbs at all.
That's right, the Super Bowl is here and everyone's getting ready for their parties. If you stacked all the wings that we're gonna eat, it would reach the sky. If you stacked all the celery we're going to eat, it'd reach about here.
It's comedy with a helmet and knee pads. And when you try to make your jokes offensive to no one, you get non-jokes, like Jimmy dancing with John Travolta, or Jimmy dancing with Jennifer Lopez, or Jimmy dancing with Michelle Obama. You may laugh when he does an impression and it turns out the guy's actually there, but it isn't a joke. To be fair, it's not like his competitors are doing jokes either.
But it's not normal.
The more partisan shows serve an obvious propaganda role, but the Fallon show serves its own purpose. It's useful for people to think that they still live in a basically intact society, that we can all laugh at the same things, even if it's Jimmy wearing goofy pants. But as the culture gets more and more divided, there's less commonality and fewer things we all think are worth laughing at. He's trying to make a peacetime show in wartime, and even though he's not a hard propagandist, he knows who he works for. Remember when he got in trouble for this? The media responded as if he'd asked to comb Stalin's mustache. And Fallon, of course, apologized. Then there was this moment when he thought his career was over.
This is the first time a drag queen has ever been put on the cover
A drag queen? A drag queen? I am the queen of drag.
I apologize.
Just look at that face. He thought he was about to get slapped, then canceled, then crucified in Times Square. But no matter how banal the show is that night, those strings are always on him, making sure he doesn't offend the worst people in the world. He's there to make us feel like we still have a monoculture, but it's getting harder and harder to pretend that. People tune in for their nightly blue pill. It helps you sleep better and it tastes like cotton candy. After a while, it starts to all seem awkward and forced. There's this weird anxiety to keep everything as light and inoffensive as possible. It's all fake laughs and karaoke sessions. Fallon is almost 50 years old. He doesn't care about TikTok trends, but he has to make jokes about them because that's his role. But in a way, I feel for Fallon. I also wish we had more in common than we do. He doesn't know what it takes to build a healthy society, but he knows what a slightly more healthy society looked like. Fallon's show was never really my thing, but I understood the appeal. But if you're still watching Jimmy Fallon, just know that it's not exactly the best thing for your immune system. It's not healthy to pretend that everything's fine out there. And like I said earlier, millions of people are still watching. Fallon won this year's People's Choice Award for Best Late Night Show, which I guess is a reminder to us all
that AIDS is still a problem in America.